Hello there. Welcome to the first of Ray Ray's church services on Sunday, I guess. Not really a church. It's me bullshitting about all the shit I normally bullshit about. And I'm telling you that all of the stuff I normally talk about on this channel is part of a religion, believe it or not. This is what I personally believe. And I believe in being prepared, and I believe in having a rifle, and I believe in being free. Those are the tenets of my new religion. Sorry, I just went live because I was running late. This was supposed to start at 7 o'clock, and now I'm vaping and waiting for people. I kind of think that this is going to be a thing every Sunday, somewhere around 7 or 8 o'clock at night. I'm going to do this for about an hour. Sorry, do kind of a Sunday evening smoke session, church, whatever you want to call it. I have to cough now. I'm going to mute this for a second. Usually, I think I will try to smoke before I start this because that's what like a professional would do, but I'm not that professional. I have been working on guns. That's what I've been doing all week, pretty much. It feels good to do that, but like it's kind of like indulging myself. I have other things I should be working on, but for one reason or another, I can't because of other people. So I do what I can control. And what I can control is my revolver and my rifle and a few other things. And that's what I focus on. And it's not, oh, they're useful in anything that I'm going to be doing, probably. It's more or less my mind works best while it's working. And whatever that is some sort of art involving weapons. I don't really do anything else with my mind because it's my mind. And as a general result, I don't know. It's not the best choice in life to be that way, but it is the best choice in life to be that way, in my opinion, because it's like, what is your life? It's yours. You don't get any of it back. Time slips eternal. Like, do what you want to do. If you're not doing what you want to do, then why are you even here? And I don't mean like not have a job or whatever. Like, do what it takes to get some money or whatever. But after you have enough money to pay for something, start living like I would suggest, which is you live on your own land, you build your own shit, and whenever possible, you try to figure out a cheaper way to do something. And this is basically like how people have always lived. And people look down upon poor people or whatever. I think I would not want to live with a bunch of money. I've lived with more money than most of you could ever make in a lifetime, and it didn't make me happy. In fact, I was a miserable son of a bitch. Hi, Anonymous. And like, if you can find happiness and money, that's the way to go. But if it's happiness or money, yeah, I would definitely pick the happiness. The thing that you find out when you have a bunch of money is you don't have any real friends. No one really loves you. Your whole world is shit all the time. And it's briefly interrupted by moments when you meet other people that did what it took to get there. And those are nice. But those people, those are your enemies. they have more respect for you than your own friends probably do at that point. And that's because for whatever reason, whatever you did to get to the top is probably something that most people wouldn't do. Like going to college or whatever it is. And it's not a very fun thing for people to talk about that they need to like do X, Y, and Z to succeed. But like life is a game, right? They made the rules of the game X, Y, or Z. And then halfway through the game, they change half the rules. And then halfway through the game, they change half the rules again. So, what have you learned about their game? That you shouldn't play it. That's right. This is just like a casino. And like this is I think why I get this more than most is I am a or was a professional gambler in college. That's how I paid for half of my fucking college and my food was I was playing blackjack for money. And I was good enough at it to survive. I don't encourage that because like there are times during that where I was sitting on the curb outside a casino having lost every fucking dollar that I had in the world. And I'm sitting there not able to buy a breakfast sandwich and looking at which gun I'm going to have to pawn to make it through the next couple weeks. That feeling is horrible and it's not worth the upside of maybe winning money. Like this is the thing is if you want to play cards and you want to have a rule set and you want to go try to win a little bit of money, that's the way to go in my opinion. Limit what you can lose. And once you're on their money, then who cares? Okay. Like win a couple $1,000s of their money and make that your gambling money. But the thing is, like, if you don't like sitting and playing blackjack for 12 hours a night on occasion, you're probably never going to make any money at blackjack. And like, that's the thing is a lot of people be like, well, how do you afford to play for that long? You play in such a way as to run out your money as long as possible, right? Like you don't fucking play blackjack for 12 hours at $1,200 a hand. I usually start out at whatever the table minimum is and get a feel for the deck and then start basing my bets upon that. And that's not a guaranteed thing. That's just old superstitious card player shit. That like you don't just jump into a game and start betting the table max, right? And that's life too. When you jump in and start betting the table max right away, you can lose fast. And like you shouldn't be obsessed with losing in life or blackjack, but at the same time, you need to be aware that you could lose everything. That you could lose everything tomorrow. And if you don't fucking do something, that happens no matter what. Just my thoughts. So if life is a game because it's being played by assholes, how do you fucking not play the game? This is where I'm at with things. Is the cheapest way to do what I'm talking about doing is the thing that I'm focused entirely on. If you have more money, good on you. There's other options, and I'll make videos on how to do this as a rich man. But if I had Donald Trump's money, I wouldn't be president of the United States. I would be the owner of Oklahoma, all of it. I'd buy every square inch of it, and then I'd appoint myself fucking police chief, sheriff, and governor or some shit, and like welcome all the Indians back, something like that. And if that's you, good on you. But that's not me anymore. That version of me is somewhat educated, I guess. And like, this is the thing is, even if you did that, inevitably, so it's going to get fucked up later. Like, people suck. You can't trust anyone, really. The only way that you can actually trust someone with the power to run a government is by taking someone who has absolutely nothing whatsoever, and giving them tastes of unlimited power and seeing what happens. It's just my opinion. Like, even if you make someone go through 19 years of hell to fucking earn the right to wield the sword, you don't know what's in the kid's heart. There's no way to know. That's why when you teach a kid to shoot rifles, you don't teach a kid to shoot a fucking cannon. You teach a shit. Teach a shit. You teach a kid to shoot a fucking 22, right? It's the same way with everything else in life. Like this, you should take baby steps. And for what I'm espousing, the baby steps are you need to own your own car. What's the cheapest way to do that? I found the cheapest way to do that. It's go to a used car lot and look at what they just got in. That's how you find a $2,000 car. Once you have that, select your car right, get something that you like that fits your needs or whatever. But what I would suggest is to get some sort of SUV that you can sleep in, and build some sort of bed in the back. And whenever you can buy land, you have an instant place to live at that point. And it's not like, oh, I'm going to go and do that. You can have an apartment or a house or a cabin or whatever the fuck it is, right? But I think you should always have at least some place that you can go that you don't owe anyone any money. Whatever else you do in life, you buy a house in town, become a doctor, fucking make all the money. I don't care what you do. But you should always keep some patch of 40 acres or so out in the middle of nowhere. Not even 40 acres. Like, what I'm looking at buying is probably like 5 to 10 acres. That's enough for me. But like, what I'm doing is having a blacksmith shop with a cabin and a garden. So that's not most people. If that's, doesn't sound like you, then maybe you need more land than that. I plan on having a pistol range. That might require more land, depending on legalities and whatever. But like, I'm hoping that between my buddy and I, we're buying enough land to where it doesn't matter what we want to shoot. We could shoot whatever we wanted as long as we told the other one what we were doing. And but like, this is my opinion now, basically, because they are making society to a point to where I no longer wish to interact with it at all. They change the rules of the game too much. All the woke bullshit, all of the anti-woke bullshit, all of the whatever. And like, I'm sitting here as a conservative transgender woman who likes guns and freedom and going, man, someone needs to do something about this. I can't say what I'd really like to say. Anonymous knows what I'd really like to say. He was there when I fucking lost my shit last couple weeks ago. I ranted for about 6 or 7 hours doing an impersonation of the devil himself as my grandfather. And I was wrestling with God. And I would describe that entire experience as talking to the burning bush. It was very interesting. I don't even believe a lot of this bullshit. Like, that's the thing that kills me. I didn't used to anyway. It's hard to say that you don't believe in something when it happens to you. And I think the reality of this is I was always meant to be some sort of a preacher, and I was always going to be me. And I guess I'm preaching to you guys, and I'm preaching about the shit that I like because fuck him. Like that's I this is the most unique church in the world. I call my God Crom, and he's the same God that you worship, Christian, Judeo God, whatever. I call him Crom because Crom is the guy from Conan the Barbarian. Crom doesn't listen to you. Crom doesn't care about you, and that's how I feel about him. Now, maybe that's just my own personal issue. That's why I'm going to keep some of that out of the message here, because I do feel somewhat that I'm supposed to like preach, but I don't know what that's supposed to sound like from me because I'm not exactly happy with God. I'm kind of angry at him. I kind of think I'd like to get a little even. To be honest, I think it's an interesting person, to be the one preaching at you. But like they have made this such an unholy land that I feel obligated to preach. And by that I mean Planned Parenthood is a cult to the false god Baal. You can look into that. Baal is also known as Molech. All of that fucking bullshit in the fucking conspiracy theories, right? About, Bohemian Grove and Molech the owl god, and they're sacrificing a fake kid. What's all that about? So, in magic, uh, they have decided to substitute a real child for an effigy of one that they have imbued with something. If they're using it in that fire, that thing is more than it appears. It's like, I don't know how to put this. They think that it's carrying like the souls of like the undead fucking children that they've murdered. I think. I'm not entirely sure what they believe. Like this is this is the nature of dealing with demons or whatever, is I don't care what they believe. It's one of those things. Like I try to understand what they believe because they're doing shit in our world, but at the same time, I don't think the right answer to this is violence at this point. I think the right answer to this is going and buying some land and buying a bunch of guns and food and sitting on your hands while this runs itself out. It'll run itself out eventually. This is the thing with Ball, is it leads nowhere good. I hope it doesn't lead to fucking nuclear Armageddon. I'm pretty sure that that's happened before on this planet. I think if you go look at the Middle East and Egypt and shit like that, like there's large stretches of desert on this planet that are covered in nuclear glass. I think that's half of the thing that's going on in the Middle East and North Africa is those deserts. I think that used to be the civilized world like 12,000 years ago. It's part of it. I think a lot of strange shit happened around North Africa in particular. I think the sea that they think was there in the prehistoric era, I think that comes and goes depending on various things. But if the Earth does um, pole shift, which I believe it does, it would explain a great deal. Because if it did pole shift to where the North Pole was somewhere over Hudson Bay, that would create the glaciers that we saw in the Ice Age. And those glaciers weighing down on that continent, I think would have rippling effects across the planet. Like Randall Carlson talks about how the ice on North America would raise up Atlantis, right? Well, what goes up must come down. Everything has balance. What's next to the Azores? It's Africa. So if the Azores are going up, something has to go down. I think that was Africa. And I think that would create that giant inland sea. And this is Bright Insight's whole thing on the fucking Rikat structure, which is the eye of the Sahara in Morocco. It looks like Atlantis, and that's what he keeps saying it is. I don't know. I'm not gonna say either way because to me it looks like a volcano. But I think it's weird that it's one of the hidden wonders of the world, and it's hidden in Morocco. That's very interesting. I think one of the biggest secrets in the world is hidden in Morocco. I think there's both something supernatural in Morocco and something treasure related. And I think that the two are interrelated somehow. And like if go watch Aladdin, and when he goes to the Cave of Wonders, know that in ancient mythology, that was the Sphinx. Okay? That interaction that he has with the Cave of Wonders reads a lot like anyone who ever talked to the Sphinx. Something opens up, giant secret portal. Now you're in a giant thing of treasure. Can't touch anything except for whatever it is that you're supposed to go get. Because the Sphinx is like the guardian of whatever that is. And I'm not saying that the Sphinx in Egypt guards a big treasure. What I'm saying is at one time it probably did. And here's my theory. They say there's two Sphinxes and they can't find the other one. But because of the layout of the place, there should be a second one. I would go look in Morocco. What if Egypt spanned pretty much the entire North African continent at one point before whatever this was happened? It was a high civilization version of Egypt. The Egypt that we know is like the survivors of the survivors of the survivors. The Egyptians said that there were many floods. Okay, well, let's say that they had two big treasure hoards or whatever. One is that Rikat structure thing or somewhere near it in Morocco. And that Sphinx has been completely fucking blown up by somebody at some time. And I could give some thoughts as to who that might have been, but I think there's several things in the North African region in particular that it's not, oh, there's an evil cabal of people that whatever. It's every powerful person that went through North Africa found out shit about shit and tried to make sure that no one else could figure the same shit out for some reason. And I don't know what it is. And this is where all of my studies of religions have led me. I studied as many religions as I could, and the thing that I ended up churning on was what the fuck happened in the Bronze Age. As it turns out, a great deal of things happened in the Bronze Age. The things that I can tell you for sure, for a fact, that happened in the Bronze Age is there were gods walking amongst men at that time for whatever reason. I think they were aliens. And a lot of what we see as the foundation of our civilization, I think, is a squabble between a couple of gods that are in reality some sort of alien being that has come here to play God, basically. And one of these, at least, was backing Troy, which is complex, but the Trojans became the Phoenicians, became the Carthaginians. And the other side of this was the Greeks, right? And this is the Iliad and the Odyssey and all that bullshit. There was a big war, and Troy lost. And whoever was the patron saint of Troy took a bunch of fucking people and put them on a boat and sent them where people not know. And I think that these people became the Norse. And I think this patron saint of Troy or whatever is Odin. Odin, according to the Romans, was Mercury. I think that's very interesting because Mercury is Hermes and Hermes is Thoth, and Thoth is supposedly the one that built the pyramids, and Hermes literally means piled stones in Greek. Like, I know this is a bunch of crazy shit. That's the nature of reality. There's crazy shit. Get used to it. I don't know why Odin built the pyramid. I have no fucking clue what that thing does. But I can tell you this by looking at it. That is not a building so much as it is some sort of stone machine. And it was built upside down and flipped into place. And I don't know how or why that was done, but it fucking terrifies me that someone had the ability to levitate that and flip it. And when you're like, oh, why do you believe that? After looking at the construction of it, that would be the best way to build it. And it is a puzzle from hell on how that thing was made. And I basically, my answer at this point is magic. I know that's not a good answer, but when I say magic, I mean science that we can't explain. Someone had a technology that could cut and levitate stones. Think like lightsabers and Jedis. That's honestly what it looks like was done to build some of those pyramids. There are fucking like saw marks on giant stones that veer off in weird directions like they were made quickly. They weren't made very slowly by some piece of copper that in reality will never cut through a fucking stone. Um, Not that it never will, but like it's a big difference between cutting one stone every 100 years and cutting one stone every 5 minutes. The pyramids were obviously built by someone who could cut stones like nobody's business. And could they have had slave armies and done it over decades? Maybe. That is an answer, believe it or not, I think. And that is the boring answer. And I don't know exactly how they would have done that, but if you gave me 7 billion people, I'd figure it out. And like that's the thing is it's like the ants. I wouldn't figure it out in ways that the ants would understand. And that's all of the people that are on this planet now that are confused about the pyramid. It when it was made, the only person that understood how to make it was the person that made that thing. Unless it was done by some alien civilization. Someone that was up there like with a master fucking plan, laying it down stone by stone, directing millions of people, billions of people. So either you believe that there was a legitimate God that everyone, you know, was worshiping to the point that they slaved away for probably 100 years to build that fucking Great Pyramid, and then they did it 2 more times, or they had a technology we don't understand. I think it's more likely that they had the tech. And then now we see shit in our day to day lives that I started seeing technology that was not ours pop up amongst our shit when I was a kid. And that culminated in my job after college, working for some people. I was handed a piece of technology that wasn't alien, but it was science fiction. It didn't exist. It was an American made optic that was to mount on Humvees. And it had capabilities that are science fiction. I looked from midtown Tulsa to skyscrapers in downtown Tulsa, picked out individual people in those skyscrapers through the glass, and could tell you what kind of tie they were wearing. And this was a thermal camera. Let me say that again. This was, the video of, the Tic Tac. The thing I was looking through was more advanced than the thing that took the video of the Tic Tac, and I held it in my hands in 2016. Cat, shut up. And like, this is the thing, like, that I believe a lot of this shit to my bones because of that. Like, this is a thing that's being issued out now, I'm guessing. It's probably on the hood of every Humvee in inventory. And what this thing could do is independently move and target. So someone back at base is running this thing on the hood of the Humvee looking for targets for the guy in the turret. Or if there's no satellite uplink, the passenger could do this shit. So you have, a second set of eyes that is way better than the gunner's eyes, that is highlighting targets for some sort of a reticle and a gun sight. That's pretty wizard shit, in my opinion. And I'm not saying that this is outside of the realm of shit we could develop, but at that moment, I was hip deep in what we could develop. And that thing was off a spaceship or something. I don't know where that thing came from. It's legitimately the craziest piece of technology I've ever seen. And I held it in my hand for about 20 minutes. And that doesn't prove that there's Atlantis or some shit, but like, it would make sense to me after seeing that we have technology from a previous civilization, an alien civilization, or some other unknown thing, right? Like, and the reason that I think that is that thing kind of appeared out of nowhere for us to backwards engineer. That's what we were doing with it. We were taking a look at it and thinking about things that we could do and then selling it to somebody for, something. And the selling it to somebody was just some dude that wanted a fucking thermal or whatever, probably. It wasn't like some crazy conspiracy or whatever. This is dickheads in Oklahoma playing with toys. Ever since that happened, I've kind of thought a lot about the Bob Lazar story because, like, that is an alien tech. I know it was an alien tech. I know who made it. The point of it is that how is it that they have something that advanced? Are the limitations on thermal, for those who aren't in the know, are that you can't look through glass and you can't see in color. Okay. And like, they were doing some weird fusion shit to get this. And it was fusing TV with thermal, with light intensification, with shit I don't even know. Again, thermal can't see through glass. And this saw through the glass on a skyscraper, which is about a half-inch thick and usually some sort of ballistic material. Like, you definitely can't see through that. And I was picking out the colors on the dude's tie. So, if you ever wondered, do they have crazy technology? Yes, I've been trying to tell you guys that for years. And I was afraid to talk about that thing. I've talked about it a couple times on Matt's show. That's buried somewhere, but like, I've never mentioned it on this channel for a reason. It honestly kind of scares me to have held something like that. There's not many things that do. And the reason that it kind of scares me is if you take that as, oh, wow, the Army has some new thing. Cool. It's fine. Not a big deal. If you take it as the army has an alien spaceship and Roswell is true and what else is true, that's a whole different conversation. And like this is the thing that like if this is the true nature of our universe, that there are things coming here, I think it would change most people's opinion on religion. I would at least think most people would take a lot harder look at the fucking ancient aliens people. And like the thing I think is funny is I think those people were started by the CIA. And I think they did that by seriously funding Eric von Daniken somehow. And then slowly introducing nut jobs into his like sphere of influence that slowly turned that into what it is. And I'm not saying that like everything they believe isn't true or whatever. I don't know. I just don't believe that Elvis and Bigfoot are both with the ancient aliens looking for Loch Ness Monster and Atlantis at the same time. They start losing me on some of that. And again, that's not the truth. It's where is your proof? I have no proof for some of the things that I say, but it's shit that I held in my hand and I'm talking to you about it. That's the most that I can do about that. When it comes to, well, we're on the hunt for Squatch, I'm going to need to see more proof than that. And the main reason I say that is not that I don't believe in Bigfoot, but that I've been in the woods a lot and I've never seen it. However, I know other people that have been in the woods a lot that have, and they're people that I trust. But you never know if you didn't see it. And this is the thing with a lot of things. Do I believe that there could be a great ape species hiding in the forests of Canada? Yeah, there definitely could. Those fucking pine forests of Canada and Alaska could hide the moon. Okay, so like if you're going to put that as its location, okay, but people see this shit all over the place. And like my answer at this point is Bigfoot is clearly an alien that works for the government. He's been given a license to kill and he's out to get you boys. No, I don't fucking care or no. What do you guys think about Bigfoot? Like this is a live thing and we've been going for 40 minutes. Surely someone's here by now besides Anonymous. This is in essence why I believe what I believe though. And that's not everything. Like the other things that I've seen that hella influenced my beliefs were doing LSD. Doing LSD will change your opinion on religion. And the main thing of that got me was my girlfriend at the time, Dakota, said, "Hey, I'm going to go to the bathroom." And I looked over and watched a glowing ball of light stand up and go to the bathroom. Now, maybe that's just the drugs. But yeah, I only saw it for a brief second and it went away. And she was beautiful. She was an angel. I don't know what the fuck that was. But ever since I saw that, I'm a little bit like, fuck it. Yay, Jesus. And, it's not like you shouldn't love Jesus and have religion and whatever. I don't like those people. And I don't like those people because they're the very Sadducees. They're the very Pharisees and Sadducees that Jesus hated. So, like, if your goal is to be Christian, to be Christ-like, to be like Jesus, if you ever read anything Jesus ever said, he would burn most Christian churches to the ground. and take the priest outside and cut off his head. Believe it or not, Jesus and Muhammad were not that far apart. Like, I don't mean about like all the other weird shit with Muhammad. I mean like Jesus was a figure going up against Rome as a Jewish cult leader with a sword. These are historical facts. Jesus said you should sell your cloak and buy a sword if you don't have one. And he said that the meek shall inherit the earth, right? Well, my friend E. Honda is so famous for saying that actual quote is, those who have swords and keep them sheathed will inherit the earth. I think that's very true. That sounds like something I would say. As a fact, if you're the last one that goes to war, you have decided advantages. This is America in World War One. I think we didn't go into World War One right off the bat on purpose. I think we knew that was going to be a meat grinder because we were the ones inventing all the weapons. We'd already had our own version of a meat grinder in the Civil War, and we were smart enough to go, well, they're going to have to fight this out a while before we get involved. And like, when you're like, oh, but the American people didn't like yada yada yada. The American people. I think we went into World War One because Teddy Roosevelt and FDR and a few other people, well, they have family relations that make that war very interesting. I'm pretty sure that the Roosevelts and the Romanovs are related. And if you think about the world that way, if the Roosevelts and the Romanovs are cousins, what does that do to the board? Well, that means that America pretty much is a cousin of the Russian Empire, was founded by, whatever, and like to some extent, the rich and powerful people in America are still related to these fucks. So, if they are Romanovs and they are funding a bunch of shit in Ukraine, that may be why Putin is a little worried. I think what we're really watching is like the noble houses slowly take back over the world because they would argue that the best rises to the top. But in reality, shit floats. And gold sinks. I really think that's some of what's going on in the Ukraine is basically after World War II, a whole bunch of time, money, and energy was spent on the Ukraine. CIA bullshit, OSS bullshit. We had our hooks in deep there. It was one of the few places where we could really get reliable intel out of Russia. And it's because during World War II, the OSS had a vast network all through the Ukraine of operatives that were not communist and were not fascist and wanted freedom in their country. And we still had all their phone numbers and shit. Now, some of these people were known Nazis. They're like, this is what happens when you have to fight communists, I guess. But like, I think this is half of why there was so much just instant forgiveness of a lot of the Nazis on the American and British side is in reality, the Queen is a cousin of the Romanovs. So, there are bastard lines of these noble houses that were allowed to fester and breed here in America. They were a cancer on us. And we didn't take care of them because we're egalitarian and we're freedom loving and like we're armed to the teeth. What are they going to do? Well, as it turns out, I think their plan is basically to buy the world back once it ends. And I'm not sure exactly who the new royalty is going to be. And I think this is the thing you really need to get is that this is not one they. This is probably at least 2 to 6 parties in a knife fight for the globe right now. And the shit that they are concerned about that rules what they do is magic. It's Satanism and it's a bunch of other things. And this is why you're going to see something happen in Morocco. I don't know what it is. It's going to be a kerfuffle around Tangiers to Casablanca. Somewhere in there, there's going to be an international incident there at some point. There's no way there can't be. With what's going on, I think the various powers that be, if they still do some of these old ways, I don't know if they don't do these old ways to settle their disputes because they don't know to do this anymore, well, we're in for a real shit show. Up till now, we've been dealing with politicians and shit, but like the age of the politician is dying, and it's dying because if you're a king and you don't like politicians, how do you kill politics? You get involved in it. You start putting money in it, and you start paying people to change the laws to where you can put more money in it. This will slowly turn everyone against politicians. And once everyone hates politicians, where does your mind go? Well, it's either to a king or to some sort of totalitarian regime that there are no more politicians. And either way, this is better for these rich fucks. It's my opinion. And the thing I think is funny about Christianity is they took a Jewish criminal and nailed him to a cross, and several hundred years later decided he was right and made him a god. And that, in a nutshell, is why I don't like Christianity. It's not that Jesus is bad. It's everything that's happened since Constantine is a perversion of the faith, in my opinion. And like this, as much as I think Muhammad was probably sent by the one true God as well. I think he had his own flaws and issues and whatever, but I think he was sent basically to make some sort of version of the Middle East a better place, because the Middle East is a shithole that is a shithole of shitholes. And like, don't judge the messenger of God for a shithole based on things he had to do in the shithole. That's kind of my thing. Is everyone is of the world they are in, right? That's Jesus, Muhammad, you, me, anyone. And values and morals change and whatever, and you don't have to embrace those values and morals, but like to completely ignore a culture based on this is you do it at your own peril. And these people are really old and they know a lot of weird shit. I ignored Islam for a long time, and this faith is not Islam, but I started looking into what they believed about Atlantis and advanced civilizations and the Bronze Age. And the reason that I started looking into what they believe is ours has been so perverted and so corrupted that I think comparing ours to theirs, which has also been perverted and corrupted, and seeing what they didn't change and what we didn't change and comparing the two, that's probably about as good as you're going to get. And like, this is the thing, is like the rich fucks everywhere have done this. The Saudis should not be in charge of fucking anything. Everyone else, like, this is, if you really wanted to do some good, go to the Middle East and start, sitting in the street as the true defender of the faithful and preaching. You'll be thrown in prison. But like that's what happens when you do that. That's what happens when you do that here pretty soon. If you don't start fucking figuring out your shit and don't let them control you. What they're going to do here essentially I think is make no more prisons, but you get excommunicated if you fucking fuck up. So the lavish paradise that I enjoy now of not being able to use PayPal. Imagine if that was everything. That's what they're going to do. They know that people like their fucking Disney Plus and YouTube and shit. That's the only thing that they can crack the whip on now. And they're going to make it eventually to where, like, somehow if you look at a screen, it doesn't work for you. Ha ha. That's coming. And I honestly think that some of the COVID vaccine shit is there's some sort of not microchips, but there's some sort of metal in that is going into your bloodstream and into your body. And it's going to get lodged in your brain in certain places. And after this one injection, nothing happens. But after 3 or 4 of these, I am concerned about basically you being a tuning fork for fucking some shit. And I think some of these people that are fucking shooting places up are MK Ultra. Look into that. That's a real thing. I think I was being programmed for fucking MK Ultra, and I think I broke my programming. I think that's what a lot of the free porn on the internet is. If you want to know how they fucking are programming these people. That's how I would do it. Saturday is the Sabbath. Constantine went Sunday to serve the pagans, collect money. Exactly. If your church fucking collects money, I don't mean like passes the plate around or whatever, like has a Patreon for you to donate to or something. I mean like the only way for you to get into heaven is to give gold to this man who is God's representative. The true defender of the faithful would cut his head off. Just saying. And like, that's Jesus, that's Muhammad, that's any of this. It's offensive to me that someone thinks they can sell indulgences. I went to a Lutheran school when I was growing up. That was the first school I went to. And they're getting ready to have a thesis nailed on the door of their fucking church, basically. I'm getting a little sick of everything. Everything is wrong. If you continue to make the world a shittier and shittier place, I'm gonna fucking start a cult and I'm gonna turn the Hard Rock Casino in Catoosa into Biff's. And when I say that, I'm gonna go take it over. No, I'm gonna get enough cult money together to go up to fucking Hard Rock with this proposal that we change the name to Biff's because of the state of the world. If you don't know the reference there, that's what's the name of that? Back to the Future. And Back to the Future 2, when Marty comes back home and it's like, oh, what happened? And like there's a giant casino and it's called Biff's and like there's hookers running in the street and there's like gunplay. That's what the world looks like now, which I am happy for. But most people are not. And I guess I'm trying to help other people get to the point that I am at where I know that I am protected by the will of God and I will die whenever He chooses me to die. And as a result, I'm just going to go around carrying a pistol and not really give a fuck. And if you get in my way and are breaking the law and assaulting me or shooting at me or whatever, I'm going to put a bullet in your head. This is the way. Like, if you want to go get a slice of what my new religion is, go watch The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian was made to do what I'm doing here. They were trying to do it through Hollywood and their own means and whatever, and it's an effective means. I think it communicated the message to a lot of people. And what that was Jon Favreau telling Kathleen Kennedy to go fuck herself. I don't know who Kathleen Kennedy works for, but the destruction of our myth in Star Wars is one of the greatest travesties of our time. Everything good about the world comes from shit like the Iliad and the Odyssey and Star Wars. These are epic stories that tell greater truths. And when you pervert them and manipulate them and mash them up or whatever, it's like perverting the Bible. The Bible is the same thing. It was made to be a culture myth for these people. And like, your culture myth in today's day and age is Star Wars. It's teaching you to love and be good and to fight evil. This is the way. That's why I fell in love with that show. It's a dripping love letter to everything that's right. Like, if you really wanted to know what I would call my church, like, it'd be something like the Knights Templar or something like that. Like, I'm done taking your shit. You have initiated a crusade. Good luck. And this is the thing is I really hate the Catholic Church for a variety of reasons, but what they did to the Knights Templar, I think, is particularly bad. And I think it would only be justice to burn a bunch of pedophiles. I really hope that they do keep ending the world because I'd like to see that. I hate the Catholics because they protect their fucking priests. Every priest that touches a little kid should fucking be run out in the street and have his hands cut off and his eyes burned out with copper coins, and then he should be made to walk the earth as a beggar. This is the way. Death is too good for him. My new favorite movie is The Wind and the Lion. The Wind and the Lion is the best Sean Connery movie directed by John Milius that you've never heard of. John Milius made Red Dawn and wrote Jeremiah Johnson and Dirty Harry and many of the movies that you love. You should look into him if you haven't, and you should definitely go watch The Wind and the Lion if you haven't. It's this epic story of a woman and her children getting quote unquote kidnapped by Sean Connery, who is he is every hero in history you've ever fucking heard of. Robin Hood, fucking whatever. Like, he's all of that mixed into one. He's fucking Edmond Dantes. Like, the character he plays in this is a real man out of history that really existed, that really did these things, that really crawled back from the edge of the pit. And this movie is, in a way, John Milius's conspiracy theory about what started all of this shit. And you have this, it's Teddy Roosevelt and his boys going adventuring in fucking Morocco. It's a great movie. There's lots of gunplay. It's John Milius. It makes good points. And in addition to all of this conspiracy shit, it also tells you a lot about life. Like, this is the thing I like about John Milius movies is That the man lived. He really lived. He didn't fucking timidly pick around at an apple. He fucking bit it to the core. And you can tell. I like it. I like The Wind and the Lion in particular because they got a really good guy to play Teddy Roosevelt. I don't even know who that was. Like I would swear that was Teddy, to be honest. And I think it's very interesting some of the points that he makes in this movie based on things said to Teddy Roosevelt by politicians. Pay very close attention to everything said in this movie. I think this movie was he had one shot at the apple to make something that was completely his own thing that no one could influence as art with a high budget. And he chose to make a very poignant picture about the military industrial complex in America by talking about a Moroccan Barbary pirate. And the best part about this movie is that it's a Western. It's a Western set in fucking North Africa. And honestly, this movie made me realize that Muslims are people too, and that it made me realize a lot of things. I had a hate in my heart for those people. Still kind of do. Less now. And when I say a hate in my heart, I mean like if you gave me my druthers when I was 10 or 11 years old, I would have been dropped off in the Middle East with a 1911 and a knife. I wanted them dead. Wanted their families dead. They dared to fucking attack America. And now, looking at it from their point of view, I honestly think they did right. The entire idea of a world government and the World Trade Center and the UN is ridiculous. This is not the way of things. This is how you get mealy mouthed politicians making backdoor deals to sell you out to God knows what. Like this is the thing that I like about John Milius movies and the people he portrays is you can tell they're telling you the truth because they're angry and or because they don't give a fuck. And maybe it's not 100% what's real or true, but it's as best as can be known. And like that's my thing with many things is I can't solve everything, but I'm pretty smart and I've looked into a lot of shit and I've been trying to figure out what's going on for 30 years. And as much as I like Alex Jones, I don't think he's right. Not 100%. He sees a slice of the pie that no one else sees and it haunts him. And I don't know exactly what mangle of bullshit he got a peek at. That's probably some real shit that's being worked on somewhere, but it's like a footnote. I think that's half of the crazy, crazy bullshit he says is that there's probably two scientists in a shack somewhere working on animal human hybrid. I don't think that's a pressing concern, but I might be wrong. He said several things that ended up being my pressing concerns. Back to The Wind and the Lion. The movie The Wind and the Lion is like this journey that you're taking with Petty Karras, which I think is funny. This is a whole thing, but there's a woman in this thing that he put a woman in this and it was a man. I don't know why that's what he did, but I think he did that because it was way more of a thing, a socially acceptable thing than what actually occurred. I think that's what the case is because if you look up this incident that they made the movie of, Mrs. Petticaris is a man named Picardus, and it's him and his youthful sidekick. I don't know. I hope it's just like a uncle and his nephew on an adventure, but like, you know, Rick and Morty looks like it could be real creepy. Same way here. And in the movie, there's two kids, and one's a girl and one's a boy. And in real life, it's just a boy and a man. And I think the thing is that this man was gay, was very gay, and was from some rich family that he was an ambassador or some shit. Like this was the thing. It's like the person they kidnapped was basically an ambassador or connected to them in some way, and they started holding them at ransom. And the thing that I love about this event is the true part of this is when Teddy Roosevelt was given the news of that they were being held captive and whatever, and they were demanding gold and rifles and all this shit, he sent back a message to Raizuli, the man that kidnapped Petticaris, and the message that he sent was Raizuli dead or Petticaris alive. And like that's simple and to the point. Like that's the thing I like about Teddy Roosevelt. And I hate to say I like Teddy Roosevelt, but like Teddy Roosevelt did many things that I would disagree with, but he did many things that saved us in the long run. There's also the national parks, I think, alone is one of those things that like no one would have done that, but everyone is glad it was done now. And this is the thing is I think Teddy Roosevelt was like the good king. I think Franklin Roosevelt is Louis the 16th. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, the good king is Louis the 14th is the Sun King. Louis the 16th is the one that got the whole empire killed or whatever and was beheaded. Louis the 14th is the one that took France from being a backwater second-rate country and turned it into an empire, basically. It wasn't backwater second rate, but like they had losses and whatever. Like this is the thing with European countries. They go through ups and downs. And historically speaking, the downs are being invaded and the ups are being turned into an empire. And America kind of played that after World War II. We went and made our own empire around the world, and a lot of people question the what fors and whys of why we do that. I think it's a mix of we have evil intentions and we have good intentions. It's like anything, like it depends on who's running the show. The person running the show is Teddy Roosevelt. There's no issue having military bases around the globe. There's not going to be a war. If there is a war, it's going to be short because he's going to fucking invade wherever it is and ride up and fucking cut the head off of the dude doing it or whatever. Like Teddy Roosevelt's answer to World War II was an airborne operation on Berlin. You know, in essence, if you want to understand Teddy Roosevelt, no beach landings, no tanks, no whatever. Just drop all of our paratroopers all on Berlin, all at the same time and seize the fucking air bases. Teddy Roosevelt's a man that goes for the throat, and I like it. It reminds me of me. And FDR, I don't like FDR. The main reason I don't like FDR is not that he paid poor people or whatever. It's everything that he did was to take away America and replace it with Europe. And that's what we've become. We've become too European. And the only places left that are still America are like Texas and Oklahoma and the red states, Florida, that whole stripe up the middle of the country to North Dakota, really. I I see this ending badly. I don't know why they're letting our electricity infrastructure just be shut off. And I think some of this is there is a conspiracy, but some of this is that conspiracy caused caused a counter conspiracy. That is, everyone that doesn't want that to happen now is doing their own shit, making their own plans, and this is causing chaos. And that's probably good for us, to be honest. I like chaos. The issue is basically that because of the chaos and the fact that we fired most of the military, no one even knows what they're doing in Ukraine anymore. Um, the point of anything that was going on there was to get shit out of Putin and leverage him. And whoever decided to run Biden the way that they're running him doomed us to nuclear Armageddon. Because I have studied Putin as much as I can based on YouTube mostly because it's hard to know what to trust. And I think Putin 100% will push that button. And I think he's come to that because he's like me. He's very much tired of dealing with their bullshit. He's so much tired of dealing with their bullshit that he's working with the Chinese who he hates. And like that's a relationship doomed to failure, but they just want America out of the way. And then they figure it's probably going to be 100 years before Russia and China bump into each other and butt heads. That's probably pretty much true. If America blinked out of existence right now, we've kind of pacified the world to the point that, like, Australia, I don't know where that would go, but like India is going to be a thing that's going to expand. China's going to be a thing that's going to expand. Russia's going to be a thing that's going to expand. And the sleeping tiger that no one wants to talk about is Japan. If I were China, I would be very concerned. The Japanese have this fucking. I don't know about that. I think either way, it's the same game. If he does either one, uh, Zoro says that he's more likely to do chemical weapons than nuclear weapons. Uh, yes, technically, but at the same time, when I say nuclear weapons, I don't mean launching ICBMs in America. I mean using tactical nukes in the Ukraine, like Russian doctrine dictates. And if they do that, I don't know what our response could be. Like, we aren't going to send nukes there. We aren't going to nuke them over that. They can just do that. That's their backyard. If they do that, the world is going to be upset. But like, the world is already upset. The world got upset when they fucking invaded. Like, Putin has said many times he's fighting World War III. I think he's right. I think the day he invaded was when World War III started. Really, it won't be looked at that way in history books. It'll be a future thing, probably next year. That is some triggering event that starts all of this. But in reality, Joe Biden fucking with Putin over Ukraine caused World War III. This is why you don't vote for Democrats. This is why you don't vote for senile old men that are being run by their crackhead sons. This is why many things. This is why, the lion roars and the wind blows and they don't even affect each other, really. That's the quote at the end of The Wind and the Lion is something that this Raisuli wrote to Roosevelt after this whole incident, and it was, "You are the wind, and I am the lion. You can blow the sand and sting my eyes, and I can growl at you, but I am on the ground and know my home, and you will never know yours." So it's a cold thing to say to somebody. Oh, Zorro, Putin has done way worse than using chemical weapons in the Middle East. Putin has used tactical nukes probably in parts of Asia that we've never heard about because they don't want us to know that. I know for a fact that the last nuke used in combat was not Nagasaki. And this is the thing that, like, that's tucked away back in there somewhere. But yeah, that's happened. And like a lot of people don't get, a tactical nuke is like they can vary in size, but the Russians have very small ones. And something on the order of fucking Hiroshima or Nagasaki is not outside of the realm of possibility. I don't think that's how big the shit that they used was. I think it was shit smaller than that. But it's one of those, like, are you going to waste a bunch of fucking lives and ordnance on some mountain somewhere when you could just nuke it? Nope. And like, there's some, oh, we don't want the United States getting involved or whatever. But there's some extent that the shit that was going on in the Middle East for the last 20 years or better, longer than that, ever since the Russians invaded in Afghanistan, like, we manipulated that to happen. That was a move on the chessboard. We wanted them to go into Afghanistan. Now, why did we want them to go into Afghanistan? Well, we were wanting to kill their empire, right? Well, there's more to it than that. We want to pacify and conquer the Middle East. This is the goal. This is why we've done anything for the last however long, is that these people can't be conquered. And various sorts want to conquer them. I'm glad the fucking Taliban won in the Middle East, in Afghanistan. I know that sounds bad, but I think that we more than got our pound of flesh out of them. And if they never touch us again, then it worked. But at the same time, I don't think that they shouldn't have their own country. I love Sean Connery. Like, it's so good to find a Sean Connery movie that I hadn't seen that's made by my favorite director. I'd heard about this in the past or whatever, and I was like, yeah, whatever. It's honestly the way he talks. Like, if you watch this movie, you will find yourself talking like a Barbary pirate. It's kind of awesome. I picked up several bad habits. Like, I keep saying the true defender of the faithful. He said that in that movie, and like that's what we need. We don't need a pope. We don't need a fucking, you know, space wizard. We don't need whatever it is. We need one man with a rifle that the government cannot capture, who doesn't kill for money or power or whatever, but kills for his own purposes and reasons. I I don't know how you make that a part of the government. Like, I would like to have a permanent position made, like, when you make a throne in Denver or some shit, or you put some random person that you pick on it, and like, he's the one that, if things get bad enough, this person has the right to go shoot whoever is in charge and sit down in his chair, rule for 5 minutes, and then get up and go back to his throne in fucking Denver or wherever it is. I don't know why I picked Denver, but like this person should sit on a mountain. Like this person should not be me, to be very clear. I think this person should be like Gandhi. Gandhi. Gandhi would be a good person. You know, someone who's basically never going to use this ability. But this is the nature of power that should be between the church and state. Is there should be a check on the state's power that is the hand of God. And it shouldn't be, you know, some like the Queen of England. The Queen of England does this for their country. It shouldn't be like that. She's some rich fuck or whatever. Like whoever's the king of America, like we should find like the most broke dick homeless person on earth. Craziest one. I don't know. Maybe that's not a good idea. Scratch that. Find like the most broke dick homeless person that, you know, is like a hardened combat veteran. Like that's the thing, is whoever this is needs to have taken enough lives in their life to not be interested in taking anymore. I think that's the reality of many of these great religious leaders over the eons. Is there's only a few ways you get to be that religious leader, and there's a lot of this like Gandhi Jesus shit, right? Well, a lot of these people got to be where they are by riding on the wind with a sword. You know, Genghis Khan formed the religion of his empire. A lot more of that happened over the years than fucking Gandhi. And now everybody's like, oh, Gandhi's the way, or whatever, Jesus is the way. And like, maybe. I'm not saying that they aren't the way. I'm saying that peace is a tool in a tool belt. And you shouldn't just keep throwing peace at people until you fucking get dead. That's stupid. I'd have prayer beads and a rifle. It seems the much better way to be. Like this is the thing I've never understood about like Tibetan Buddhists is I essentially agree with most of what they believe to some extent, except for the whole oh we're never even going to defend ourselves thing. And this is where like the samurai version of Buddhism makes way more sense to me. And I don't know if that's really a pure religion or not, but like at a certain point you can't let people fuck with you. And that's essentially what I think most of these warrior religions are is like, yes, killing people is wrong, but there are, you know, mitigating circumstances. Ergo, he tried to kill you. Ergo, he tried to rape and kill your family or you know, whatever it is, right? And fucking, there's a myriad of sins besides fucking murder. And every one of them has this like, nothing is black and white, everything is a shade of gray. And my issue with our legal system and judges in this country and all of this is it's someone else's morality from 150 years ago being forced on all of us. And we should find whoever that person is that's doing that, and we should hang them. I don't know who that is. I don't think that's a person. It's like a spirit of fucking the ancestors or some shit. And you know, you shouldn't throw everything away. There's a lot of good old shit. You should keep a lot of that. That's like Teddy Roosevelt. I think he was the man to fix America at that time because he was this. He was both. He was 100% a rich evil shit, And he was also the rich evil shit that would rather be riding on a horse with a rifle in Montana. That is an American. Like, does money buy you happiness? No, but it can buy you a horse ranch, and that's pretty close. I don't even like horses. I'm more of a car motorcycle kind of person because, like, my thing with horses is I've never raised them. And I would want to raise the horse that I was riding. But that's me. I'm weird like that, and I've raised enough animals in my life that I've seen the difference between the one that I rescue from a bad situation and raise myself and the one that I just get from somebody. Most of the dogs I've ever raised, if I squeaked and pointed at someone, they would have died a glorious death being stabbed to death by that person while killing them. It's I like dogs. It's one of those things about a dog is like you gotta love a thing that's willing to die for you at the drop of a hat simply because you're in the pack with it. If you're one of them, you live and die as one of them. That's, men are much the same. Like there's all these comparisons of men to wolves and whatever, men to dogs. Men are men. Dogs are dogs. Dogs are more admirable than men. On that note, I think I'm going to end this because I'm running out of things to talk about. And this has been an hour and a half or better of this. Any closing thoughts from you guys? Do you like my church service? All 3 or 4 people that have been here throughout this? I don't know that it's always going to be a church service. Sunday night is going to be whatever I wanted to talk about, and it's going to be me alone and talking about the world. So it's always going to be kind of churchy, but this one is particularly good, I think, because I just watched The Wind and the Lion, and fuck, like, if you want what I believe in a movie, it's a pretty good one. Like, that's, a lot of John Milius things are that way. We all love Red Dawn, eh? At least most of the people who are watching this probably did. Trying to think of the other things I would watch from John Milius. He wrote Apocalypse Now. That's one of my favorite movies. I love that movie because it's the heart of darkness. And it's set in Vietnam. And it's about crazy special forces expeditions to kill colonels and shit. Like it's a perfect movie. There's many things about many of the movies that he's written that I love. He was famous in Hollywood for being a really good writer and always wanted to direct. And every time they ever let him direct, he made a movie that got him blackballed from Hollywood for life, pretty much at every turn. The Wind and the Lion, I think, just didn't make money or whatever. They chalked it up as being, yeah, no one liked it. I think he made that on purpose the way he did. It's not meant for everyone, it's meant for you. If you're listening to this and you like what I'm talking about, that movie is made for you. Go free your inner Barbary pirate. Like, a lot of people on my channel have said things over the years about, I'll talk about knives for various things. And like, for me, knives are mostly tools. If I want to kill you with a blade, I'm going to get a sword. And this is the thing is I've done fencing I've done all sorts of things, and I'm pretty confident that I can fucking stab somebody. Put it that way. So when I get comments on YouTube videos about knives that are, you have to get real close to use that. Well, yeah, that's kind of the idea. I want to look a man in the eyes. To quote The Wind and the Lion, it's not like guns are bad. It's that swords are better. And swords are better because it's less of a luck and skill thing or whatever versus it's about you and how you handle yourself, and a lot of other things determine whether you live or die. In one of the duels in this movie that Sean Connery fights is in the middle of a gunfight. A German officer on horse with a pistol and him tilt their sword and pistol at each other's faces, and the German officer puts his pistol away and draws his saber and charges. And they have a fucking sword fight in the middle of this running gun battle between 1,000 Berbers and some Europeans. And at the end of this fight, Sean Connery has him cornered, has him laying on the ground, has him dead to rights, raises his scimitar, swings it at his head, and stops, only barely nicking his cheek, smiles at him, laughs, and runs. And that is, gentlemen, I love you too much to kill you. You were willing to fight me in a sword fight amongst all of these men. You are touched by greatness. I love that most of all. I love that in this movie, this brigand, this murderer, this whatever, he doesn't kill because he wants to kill. He kills because it's necessary. He has this man's life in his hands, dead to rights, could cut his fucking head off with that sword, has done it 100 times in this movie. He nicks his cheek, smiles, laughs, and runs. It's counting coup. This is the idea of counting coup. If you've never heard of it, it's a honor thing between people that fight, and it's Native American Indians, it's knights, it's samurai, it's anyone that would fucking challenge you to a duel with swords in the middle of a gunfight believes all of this shit. And if you fucking fight well and carry yourself with honor and are ready to die, funny things happen. Very often you're not killed. And that's usually because whoever you're dueling this with is this man that has this utter respect for what you are and doesn't want to see you dead. And like, this is the way the world should be. And maybe we need a dueling culture back. And I'm not saying like the Nazis were scarring up each other's faces and shit, but like at the same time, they were doing that for the same reason that I'm talking about here. And they perverted that into whatever. But at the same time, the ability to call one another on our bullshit and settle our differences in a physical way, that is desperately needed in America. I'm not saying it needs to be swords. It could be fucking Muay Thai or fucking Taekwondo for all I care. I'm not gonna say jujitsu because that's what everybody says. I think Muay Thai would be more fun. Yeah, that or like curling. We'll pick the weirdest sport. We'll get brooms and rocks and we'll freeze a lake. And whoever doesn't die, or drinking contest. Drinking contest is probably one that's already being done. I don't think we should encourage that though. my thought was we should make the American sport of dueling that is like various levels, but I want baseball bats. And like the lower form of this would be Nerf baseball bats or trainers or whatever. But like, imagine baseball bat on baseball bat solo combat with rules. I don't know what the rules would be, but like, imagine using baseball bats like swords. I'm tired of living in the 21st century. I'm tired of it so much that I'm willing to go live in the Bronze Age. And I'm wearing a magic ring and carrying a sword and waving a battle flag and just hoping someone kills me at this point. I'd rather die than live in this place. And that's in essence why like I'm walking away from society. Slowly but surely, I'm gonna be a hermit fucking holed up in my mountain with my next door neighbor who probably is doing the same thing. And it's not like, oh, I don't want to be, with people or whatever. It's more or less that I'm going to go build my secure compound from which I will interact with people at my own leisure. And that way I no longer care if you live or die or exist. At the moment, I'm kind of interdependent on some people because of the nature of our society. I think that's inherently wrong. It's going to get a lot of people killed. Like, I'm not as reliant as most people. Like, if you turned off the power today, I would actually probably be uploading in about 30 minutes or so. I'd have to run out a solar panel and, get the battery in place and all that shit. But like, whether the electric grid is on or off at this point does not really matter to me that much. This is the way. Now, my goal for that is you can get cheap government surplus solar panels from, I think it's Santac Solar. Go look that up again. I'll do a video on them eventually. But for $60, you can get a 240-watt panel. I think it was 60. I think there was some for like 35, 38 different sizes. But like at that price, the shipping on them was a little outrageous because it's a few $100s or whatever. So don't buy one. Buy like as many as you can. Buy like $2,000 worth of those things and put them in your barn. And then figure out how many you're going to need for your fucking system and go throw up however many it is. And you'll have all those extras for when panels burn out or when you need more panels or whatever. And sorry. If you do want to have your own complete off-grid system for a few $1,000s, that would be enough solar panels to panel anything that I would ever need to do. And I'm wanting to run a machine shop. So I'm pretty sure that you'd be okay. The issue is batteries, right? And a lot of other shit. That's a whole other conversation. But once you have the solar output, then you can worry about batteries. There's cheap ways to get batteries. I need to make a whole series of videos on solar. Well, I guess there aren't going to be any more comments. So I'm going to end it here. Thanks for watching. And I hope someone is at least inspired to find religion from this. If not, believe what I believe. It was basically, for those who weren't here at the beginning, what I believe is that you should be free, that you should be armed, and that you should find love. And anyone who tells you anything other than that is a fucking liar. I'll see you guys later.